Well, hello. It is Friday, March 18, 2022. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This is your status chat. Before we get into it, congratulations to the Big Orange guys in basketball winning the first SEC tournament in a while, and now we're beginning the playoffs. So let's see how that goes. Now, let's look at our numbers right after this. As with anything I bring to you in a status chat from the internet, the full link to those things will be found in the description of the status chat in which they appear. Now, I just have two tabs here open for you today, and I do want to look at new privately owned housing units started, total units, okay? And so that we see right now, as of February, we're in March, but this is the last completed month, we had 1769 according to the St. Louis Fed. And this is just a chart generated from there. Well, what happens if we take this out to our maximum value? Well, it shows you that we really haven't recovered since the 2008 housing market collapse, because as the market collapsed, we had a glut of homes, foreclosure homes that the banks had to get rid of and the federal government had to get rid of, HUD had to get rid of. That would have had, obviously, a very decent impact on contractors and building of new houses if there were a flood of homes available. And we see we've really kind of slowly built back up since then. But we're not at an all-time low by any means, and we're not at a high by any means. We go back to, we can see in 2005, 2006, right in that area, we were building quite a bit more. If we go back to around 1970s, early 70s, we see we're building more, around 2,400 a month. So we're down a little bit, and of course we know our population has grown since 1970, so it would appear that we're not keeping up with as many housing starts. Now let's look at this picture regarding mortgage rates. Now this is from Trading Economics. We saw a little bit of this in a recent past, and it does look like we're going in that frantic uphill mode on rates, predominantly because we've spent so much money in M1 money supply by printing money without any backing of any sort. We just created it through the House of Representatives and caveat lawmaking. So we see our rates are going up. We know our fuel is going up. We're hitting massive heights in inflation on everything, and it's a little scary time for us. Well, why don't we put this a little bit in perspective? This is what, 22 to 21. Let's go to a 10-year period, and we see it still a pretty darn sharp rise, but it's not the end of the world, because we see just as far back as about 2019 sometime, we were over 5%. Now that was a peak versus the peak in 2014, but let's just go to to the max, and we see that generally speaking, we are significantly better than we were back in 1992, 91, 90, somewhere around in that range, and we were steadily decreasing, although we did see some rises. So we are going to expect to see mortgage rates rise a little bit. Will it be the end of the world? No. Will it affect your ability to pay a price for your home? It just depends on your ratios, but it's definitely going to be something you have to be aware of, because as the 4.5% interest rate as the peak, it looks like we're well going to hit that forecast, and it may go higher, may not. We don't know yet. Now, let's look at this over here. I want to show you something else. Now, this is from last week. This is that composite chart where we have in orange our Rutherford County performance in closed sales. Now, this is the number that are already finished. This is how many units we did. We see the cyclical nature. There's 17. gets low, and then spring comes on, we peak, and then fall comes, we slow off, and here we are right there at 2018. The same cycle pretty well much repeats. Took a little dip in 19, but it wasn't significant. And you see the other lines in between. These are the nationals. So while they do their little wonky thing all by themselves, we're fairly well much trucking right along unimpeded. And I think that's a good sign. So I don't really think that our world is going to change very much in the next several months, next year. It might. I don't have a crystal ball any more than you do, but let's go ahead and close that one off. Some other things I want to make is this is a part of the problem that we're having. This is from 2020 to 2022. Do you see how we're going from an inventory starting at about the same time, around 900,000? This is in the average homes for sale. We see that we peaked up probably close to 1 million. In 2021, we kind of rebounded and hit a heavy inventory at that point, but 2022 is below both of them. So that is a 26.7 year-over-year decrease in available homes being listed. It's not how many homes we have. The housing starts will fit into it because they build new ones that aren't previously occupied, but of the ones that are on the market, we see that we are down significantly. So what does that really mean? Well, I want to point something out to you. This is our brokerage, our benchmark brokerage numbers from 2021. Now this is the entire brokerage, one company, not a franchise where we add multiple franchise together to make it pump up a little bit to give us some more pleasant news. But we're number one in the MSA, or the Metropolitan Statistical Area. And you see from 2020, it was at 3.4 billion to 4.6 billion. And there's a lot of craziness in the market. That is a 34.9% increase. Now the point is, when you're choosing someone to work with, or heaven forbid you're trying to do this alone, there is an advantage to being number one in MSA. And that's why you need to call Dell to sell and call Dell to buy. And if you're trying to buy and you have a property to sell, we need to work on both transactions so that we can do the timing of it, because it's very difficult, not necessarily to sell a very well prepped home and get that maximum dollar for it, but it's difficult to make that transition and do the timing of both of those together. You really need to have one agent for both of your transactions to make that go over well. Other than that, it could be just luck of the draw of how things happen when those things are just not well coordinated. So anyway, that is that for today's middle segment. We appreciate you watching. Let's return to the show. Hello, I'm Dell Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, Call Dell to Sell. That's one L in Dell, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Now that we have that done, let's load our number. Last week 3/11/22, we had 7509 opportunities in the Real Scout system. That was up over the previous period. 4130 were the under contract still showing. That was slightly up over the previous period. And the ratio between those at the integer level did not change at 55%. This week, 3/18/22, we had 7575 in the opportunities. That was up slightly over the previous period. We had 4139 in the under contracts still showing, and that was also up just a little bit over the previous period, and the integer ratio did not change at 55%. So we're stable at last 3 weeks at 55%. So you know what you need to do. Call Dell to sell, call Dell to list, and have a great weekend.